Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Too Old to Die Young, Volume 7, The Magician. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. Joe, it's funny, because we're doing these weekly right now, there is time between episodes, and because last one was a purely Jesus and Yuritsa episode, I was like, oh shit, it's been ages since I've seen Martin. It's been ages since I've seen these characters.
Last time we saw him, he got stabbed in the desert.
He did get stabbed in the desert. That is quite right. So this episode opens. Is it the scene with Martin and Debbie to start with? Or sorry, not Debbie, Diana. Sorry, it's been a couple of weeks clearly. Yeah. Basically, she's asking a bunch of questions, and it very much feels like the initiation of him into possibly being Vigo's replacement. Right, that is the scene. And she's giving him all these kind of questions. It's all these kind of moral questions, like, so if you see someone getting stabbed, like an old man's getting stabbed, what do you do? Intervene. Like, kind of. I mean, I wasn't one of them, I don't think, but it was that kind of thing, over and over again. He keeps pausing, he keeps saying the right thing, and I was wondering, like, at what point does it sound like he's just, because it's really obvious what the good answer is every single time. It's not like they're tricky questions in terms of, a moral choice. But eventually she gets to, a teenager is attracted to you and offers herself sexually. What do you do? And there's this pause. And I'm like, do they know? Is that why she's asking this? Do they know?
I think they know.
He's like, walk away.
And she's like, are you sure about that?
It's a look that Vigo gives her at this point that made me think they maybe kind of know, but they're giving him a chance to fess up. Like, they want him to kind of like accept his sins and kind of move on. And I think that's kind of a theme for a lot of the episode, because he does actually own up to certain things later in the episode. Not everything, but we do get there.
Yeah.
So we go from this to Janie's 18th birthday party.
Yeah, and this is the party that we were being told about last episode.
It was, and her friend, who we met last episode, is there as well. She meets Martin briefly in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we've got this ridiculous Janie balloon that's like an arch and big 18s floating around, and the Baldwin stands up and goes, "Oh, I can't believe it, my baby girl."
He gives a creepy speech about how hot his daughter is.
He talks about how beautiful she is. He then also says, "Well, you're 18, that means it's only a few years until I start dating your friends," and then he's kind of like makes some suggestive dancing moves towards him. And he does it for like a good 10-15 seconds before he eventually goes, I kid. I'm like, you took too long to say you were kidding. That was too long.
Yeah. It was a long time.
Even the way he kisses her, because she makes like, oh, come on up, Jenny. And there's a long pause, and then they'll clap for her, and he's like, yes, clap, clap, clap. And he kisses her on the cheek at first, but then he kisses her on the neck like 3 times, and it's like it's a couple kiss. This is a couple thing. Dads don't kiss their daughters this way. This is creepy as shit.
As if he hasn't been creepy as shit since the first time we met him.
Well, he has, but I mean, we reach a peak in this episode.
Oh, we do. Yeah. There's a reason Martin snaps.
We reach a culmination, as it were.
Sure.
For the audio listeners, I made a hand gesture there that was supposed to symbolise an ejaculation happening. Ejaculation? Yep. Ejaculation. Ejaculation. That's the word I was going for. Anyway, so there's some visual things I want to point out in this scene that I really like. When he's in the the kitchen. When he's in the kitchen and he's watching the party. Again, he's very separate from the party. Everyone's like celebrating and sitting around the main room.
We're on this big circle.
And they're in like this brightly lit room, this party room with balloons, and there's music playing, they're all talking. And he is in the kitchen, which is completely in the dark. And when I say completely in the dark, I mean, I obviously can still see him. It's not pitch black, but it's,
the lights aren't on.
The lights aren't on. And not only that, the shot of like his POV looking through at the party, and also looking back at him, it's through the door frame. There's like a sort of glass wall, and there's a door.
Physical divide.
Yeah, and you can see through it. It's kind of like it's not like clear glass, like it's frosted, but you can make out the shapes beyond it, and I think it's an interesting sort of visual representation of his view of the world. Like, he has this window where you can kind of see into it, maybe through Janie, but everything else is kind of frosted, and it's not quite something he understands. Simple enough little trick, but it was something that was there, and the visual motif comes back later as well, which is why I'm making a point of mentioning it. But yeah, so he makes a speech, and then her friend comes in and says hi to Martin at one point. Even later, when the dad's making this speech, because by this point he's actually in the room now, and it's at the end of the speech he gets a phone call from Damien, and he's asked to come and see him
because he declines the call the first time.
Yeah,
and then it rings again. And he's like, okay, maybe this is serious. He answers it. I was actually a little bit surprised Damien never, like, hey, don't hang up on me again, sort of thing. I was kind of surprised he was so.
He shook because someone tried to kill him.
Yeah, he was borderline easygoing in the response to
well, what's interesting is so Martin drives off and meets him at this house that he's hiding out at. He's got a lot of guards and stuff. He's in the back door, and Martin comes out and they're talking over a wall. And again, there's kind of a divide. It's not as maybe the same divide that he has with the real like sort of civilized world, but even with Damien, there's this like fairly low wall separating them, and they can sort of see each other over it. Again, I think there's a lot of metaphors in the imagery in this episode as for how Martin's separate from people.
Yeah.
But so Damien explains that someone tried to kill him, and he believes it was the Mexicans over territorial disputes, and he needs to try.
He thinks he just got lucky in that. Okay, they missed me basically.
Well, he's right.
Yeah. But I don't think he realizes it was lucky due to sheer incompetence.
Sure, yeah. But he, explains this, and he wants Martin to get any info he can from the police to find out, like, if they can track down who's behind this, just that kind of thing. And Martin's like, okay, I'll make a call. And we get probably maybe the funniest scene in the episode here, where Martin calls the station and he gets the fat cop that we've been seeing. And as soon as he answers the phone, and Martin puts it on speaker, so it's just sitting on the wall in between both him and Damien, and this guy's just like, "Oh, hey Martin, how's your cock?" Sorry. And again, just keep in mind, this shows a lot of long pauses before Martin responds to things, so it's just this blank stare for like 5 seconds, and then, "Sorry."
Yeah, and he's like, "Well, I mean, you're off ill, right? So that just means you're sitting around jacking off all day."
Yes. And then he's like, "Do you want to hear about my cock?" Again, long pause. No. And the best part is every so often it cuts back to Damien's reaction, and he's just
horrified.
He's just standing. Yeah, because my favorite part of all this is when he eventually hangs up the phone. Damien says, "Jesus Christ, please tell me he's not a real cop." And he's like, "Yeah, well, kinda."
Yeah.
Oh, it's such a good scene for the comedy stuff.
I do love that. The Damien's perspective, he kind of wants the cops to be incompetent because that's good for him, in terms of criminal activity. But this guy is so incompetent and ridiculous that he's like, please tell me they're better than that.
I mean, you have to imagine that, okay, you'd say he wants incompetence, but I think Damien's not a savage. I think he still wants cops to be able to solve, like, simple murders and, like, rapes and things like that that are around.
He wants them to be incompetent enough that he can get through.
Yeah, but it's not like he doesn't want police to deal with things like that. He just doesn't want them to deal with his organised crime, where he sees himself as building a sort of respectable enterprise, I suppose.
Yeah, sure.
But he's like, please tell me he's not a real cop. So, and obviously the captain gets on the phone. He's like, "Oh, you're running to get back to work. You're asking about things, and you're supposed to be on sick leave."
And he's like, "No, I'm not ready yet. I need at least another week or two still."
"Now you're ready to go. Jesus got nailed to the cross, and he was back up in 3 days."
He's like, "Oh, we'll talk to your doctor. We'll get you in next week. Be fine."
Martin really should have responded, "That well, yeah, but I'm not Jesus. Jesus was kind of a special case. Just FYI."
Yeah.
Oh dear. But I mean, I think it's notable. He mentions his wound. He's like, it keeps opening back up. I think there's some symbolism there. We'll talk about that a little bit more later because it's more relevant later. But it is mentioned for the first time in this scene. But what I really noted about this scene is that, okay, he'll call me back tomorrow, whatever. I'll let you know anything. And he's like, "Thank you." Is that Martin takes a moment here. There's like not a long pause, as there always is with these two, because both of them just wait for ages to respond. And Martin says, "Take care of yourself." And Damien sort of says, "Yeah." And he even says thanks, actually. And what I kind of noted here was that this exchange is as close as we can get with these two. This felt like a moment of friendship where Martin.
It was borderline genuine.
Yeah, where Martin legitimately is like, I don't actually want you to die, so I hope you don't. That was essentially the sentiment of the scene of the moment, and Damien accepts that and acknowledges it, and I actually felt all as close as these two can get to sweet.
Pretty much, yeah.
That came across, which of course maybe makes you get a bit of a gut punch later on in the episode, which we'll
go quite that far.
We'll get to. I mean, again, as close as you can get to a gut punch with these characters. So Martin goes back to the party. He literally leaves Janie's world, goes to his criminal underworld, and then comes back to Janie's world. In the span of like an hour. Whatever it is. And the party's over, and she's like, "Oh, where did you go?" And it's like a work thing, blah blah blah. And what I just in the blocking of this scene again, this shot almost entirely for the scene is behind the glass wall through the door frame, and there's like a middle slit through the door that's normal image, and then you've got the sort of frosted glass on either side, and he's sitting behind the frosted glass on the right, and we can see Janie properly through the door frame. And then after a couple of moments, because he's went and sat on the opposite sofa, not very intimate, right? She gets up and walks over and sits next to him in his world. She actually leaves hers, the safety of her world, and enters his. Great bit of symbolism here. Of course, it actually cuts to them waking up the next morning before we see the sex scene, as it were, sort of intercut with him waking up in the morning.
Yeah, I think we see it start here on the sofa before we cut ahead.
Yeah, we don't see it properly though until after the morning that scene starts. Yeah. Although I would phrase this in an interesting, I'd phrase this as her having sex with him. I wouldn't say he's having sex with her. And what I mean by that is that he just kind of sits there and she's doing everything. She's like, he looks just as stoic as ever.
Pretty much, yeah. He really doesn't emote much in this show, does he?
Forgive the pun here, but he looks very stiff.
It was terrible.
It was an excellent line. But and again, it's the idea that he's not really invested in the world, and I think he thinks he cares about her, or he's supposed to care about her, in his own way. But
I think he probably does care about it as much as he is able to care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like he's just kind of putting on an act. I mean, he kind of is, but I don't think he thinks he's putting on an act.
And I think the symbolism of her waking up in the morning and his wound is opened up and she's got blood all over her, right? It looks like there's been a massacre in the bed.
It did look really bad, didn't it?
Yeah. And she's got covered in blood. And I don't think it takes, like the visual imagery here of like his blood on her, like her covered in blood because of him is,
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is where we've talked about that, what the wound is, symbolic of. Okay, he went out and, he went on this personal mission, and ended up getting stabbed, trying to do something good at the end, don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But, this lingering, festering wound, and now, okay, it keeps opening up every time he goes back into, the life of crime. It opens back up. Yeah,
it's representing his like the wound would heal, and he would stay satisfied if he kept doing what he felt like he was supposed to be doing. And I think there's also the added guilt that he's feeling because of Janie, because the questions that he's being asked by the others. So that's a great image, and it cuts back to the sex scene, and then he wakes up to the sound of the Baldwin purring and stroking the the big stuffed lion that was next to the chair.
Yeah.
And he says, "I like watching you sleep," because that's a normal thing to say to a platonic person.
Yeah. Your daughter's boyfriend.
Yes, your daughter's boyfriend who's an adult. But he's like, "Hey, I've got something to show you," and we cut to this weird scene where we're essentially watching a kind of a remake almost of the opening scene of the show, where two cops, much like Martin and his partner, pull over this woman, and his partner starts to kind of harass her and kind of imply that they're going to force her into a sexual situation. It goes further than they did in the actual scene, but eventually the camera pulls out and we see this is on a home theater screen. We're in a very fancy home theater, that he has in his house.
Not surprising at this point.
Not surprising. It's the only thing in his house, though, I'm a little bit jealous. So all the art and shit, I don't care. But good home theater.
This room,
yeah, I'll take this room. I'll do it. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
So it's never actually stated clearly. I actually watched this scene twice because I wanted to really pay attention to his dialogue as to where this idea came from. Does he know about this incident? Does he know anything about this? Did he get this somehow from somewhere? Did the girl in some way come forward to someone and it somehow got to him through something? Because there is a line later on where he says, "Now that I own you," implying, and he threatens to show this to Janie, which is implying that he knows this was him.
Yeah, but even if he did show it to her, it's not proof in any way, is it?
No, it's not. It's really not. But he's like, "Oh, what do you think of it?" He's like, "Oh, it's all right." And because Martin's sitting a couple of rows back, because there's 4 rows of big comfortable recliner chairs, and this is where he gets real proper creepy because he's like, "Hey, between you and me as men, Janie's a 10, right? Yeah, she's a 10." And then he says, "I always said that if I wasn't her father," which is the creep. I mean, that is the worst thing to come out of a father's mouth. If I wasn't her father, and also. I always said that. Always since when? At what age did you start saying that? That implies he's been saying that for a while.
See, what's interesting, I think there's a line where when they're young enough, it's like, oh, that's sweet. Oh, she's going to be a 10, right? It's kind of sweet.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah, you're going to say, oh, my daughter's going to be beautiful when she's grown up, sure.
Right, so he can kind of say, oh, I always said that. And there's just a point where it shifts to being uncomfortable.
No, that's not what he said he always said. The line was, I always said, if I wasn't her father...
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah.
At no point, at no age.
I thought you say, oh, if she was always a, I always said she was a 10. I thought that wasn't it.
He says that about saying if I wasn't her father.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I was mixing the two lines up.
There is no point in her life where that line is acceptable.
No, there's not.
Not one. And then it's after that line where he just pauses. His mouth's agape for a long time, and he starts panting and groaning. And then unbuckles his belt and starts jacking off. And it cuts back to Martin, who's kind of realizing what he's doing and is looking over at him. There's a shot of the back of his head as he's orgasming or whatever in the front seat. And and he's snorting throughout this conversation. He snorts at the end of his masturbating session. And of course, one of the things that this obviously puts it in the realm of, now we have no evidence to suggest that he actually in any way has ever sexually assaulted Janie. We don't, we've never had an indication of that specifically.
I don't think there was any implication of that whatsoever. Even here, if I wasn't her father.
Yeah. Obviously, he is very disturbed. He is very creepy. But what it does do is that it brings it into the line of thinking of the certain victims that Martin and Vigo go after. In fact, the one scene we skipped earlier on, actually, is they go to a house to take care of these parents who've been abusing their foster kids.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually sad that I glossed over that scene because it's a really well shot scene where Martin comes in, on pretending to be on duty. He's got his badge, obviously, still. He's like, oh, there's some break-ins in the area. We have to talk to you about it. And we hear that they've got foster kids, and immediately like, oh god. And Vigo comes in the back door, and they, and again, and maybe it's worth mentioning here that his wound does not open during this, even though he's violently stabbing this abuser at one point in this scene. But yeah, so Martin gets up whilst the Baldwin's still talking and saying creepy shit. Because the other thing he points out in the middle of this scene is that, oh, she never told you she was going to work for me. Because that was something he said in his speech at the birthday party. And Martin, there's a mistake in the subtitles here actually, because when I rewatched the scene, I put the subtitles on just to catch all the nuances that I might have missed.
Okay.
And the hard of hearing subtitles, when he hits him over the back of the head with the gun, it says gunshot. And I'm like, that wasn't a gunshot. How dare you? Damn subtitler. Don't you know the difference between a pistol whip and a gunshot?
Someone should get their pay docked.
Yes. So, and then, it's like, okay, is he actually going to kill him? Is he just hitting him once in anger? And he takes off his belt. I'll be honest, I thought he was going to piss on him. I don't know, it was standing over him, he took off his belt. I thought he was going to piss on him.
No, I never got that impression.
Do you really think that would be that out of place on this show?
It wouldn't, but when he took off his belt, I thought he was going to like fake him hanging himself.
Ah, okay.
I thought
Um,
that's what he was going to do with it.
no, he just put it around his neck and held it tight. And I think it's worth mentioning that his wound is not open after this scene. His wound, as far as we can tell, is fine for the rest of the episode. So it's almost like he's found another potential abuser, and he's like, okay, he's
Yeah.
crossed the line enough for me. I'm gonna, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go in.
which is interesting, like I say, because obviously there's no implication he ever actually did anything, right? Uh, to the point where, like I say, he says, "Oh, if she wasn't my daughter," which implies there is a level of awareness where he didn't do anything, right? At least to her. But obviously to Martin, because it's obviously it's his wound, it's his moral justification. It's enough.
Yeah. And obviously, I mean, you can debate if this is enough. You can debate if this is like like if he tells Vigo everything at some point and he doesn't know how much we don't know how much he actually tells him yet. We know he tells him that it's his girlfriend's dad, but not necessarily what he said or what he's done. Like, is Vigo okay with what the reason was? Is he okay with the justification that he sounds like he is a potential abuser, even though, as far as we know, he never actually did?
And I think that's the key thing is potential abuse. As far as we know, Vigo has never gone after potential abusers, right? It's always been people who we know have committed crimes.
Yeah, but I actually have no idea how he feels about that because I mean, it'd be hard to get into that situation, but there's ultimately going to be situations where you can tell there's a risk of it. Like, you can
Yeah.
see it going a certain way, and the way he's speaking, like if he had a daughter right now who was a child, like a young child, I would be phoning social services and
Oh yeah, yeah. Like
you know
I'm not in any way saying it was acceptable or that he should be looking after kids. Clearly not.
no, he shouldn't be. He should be nowhere near kids.
No, absolutely not. But there is a huge difference between, okay, we're going to take the kids away and we're going to whack you in case you might do something, right?
Oh, sure.
As opposed to all the others where it's you have done something.
Yeah, and I don't even know if it's going to go down this debate. It might not. It might be just an understanding on in terms of the show's themes that this is Martin overstepping because it's personal, and maybe that's all the understanding he has to get to is that he understands why he did this time, as opposed to you know
Yeah.
the more justified examples. But there's like some great cinematography here. I love the final shot of him strangling him, where it's like him against the screen, and it's the bright lights hitting him from the projector.
Yeah, that's good.
Really good stuff. And he phones Vigo to help him dispose of the body in the car. They go to the junkyard and get it crushed. And he's like, okay, and he gets a phone call and gets some info. Actually, I mean, he gets like a lack of info, basically. There's no info to get from the other cop, but he gets the phone call. And he's like, okay, can we stop somewhere on the way back? I need to tell someone bad news. But before they even get to Damien, though, they pull over outside the road because Martin's feeling guilty. Martin's feeling guilty he lied. He wants to be more honest. He wants to, and I think, like, this idea that he might replace Vigo, it's like before he can do that, he has to completely come clean about everything. He has to be honest about who he is and what he's done, and sort of rebirth himself, like cleanse himself. If and I say it that way because obviously a lot of the tone of the way Diana speaks to people, it is very kind of new age, like meditation, spiritual, yeah. But I love the backdrop of this because it's one wide shot almost the entire time, and it's like a refinery or something like that behind them. It's like this industrial, big machinery, big tankers kind of thing, and he's like, no, I need to come clean. I need to tell you something. The guy's my girlfriend's dad, and he's like, well, how much does she know? She's going to ask questions, and Martin doesn't really have a good answer. He just says, I'll figure something out. That's all he says.
And kind of asking, oh, why did you do it? And he's like, he kind of goes, oh, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. The idea that he's kind of aware that he crossed a line, like you say, that it was more personal than usual. He can't quantify
I think since the
in the
start of the
same way he
show,
can in the other ones.
we've been talking about him gaining a conscience over the course of the season, and I think this is the episode where I really see it kind of forming.
Yeah.
So
because it's not until he goes too far that he realizes that he has one.
yeah, basically. Although not to gloss over, Janie has a scene with her friend where they come home and her dad's not there. Um, the notable thing here, outside of them talking about Martin and just kind of how he's kind of weird, or rude was the word that her friend uses, is that Janie talks about waking up being covered in blood and being turned on by it. That she was into this.
And our friend's just like, that's effed up.
Yes, something's
But
wrong
no,
with you.
seriously, something's wrong with you.
Yes. Um, so no, and I think this is maybe a sign that like him being in her life is a kind of a weird influence. Is kind of breeding other stuff in her. You know, like would she even be like going down this weird path if he never entered her life?
Probably not.
You know, he's probably polluting her life, I guess is the word I'd use.
Yeah. I mean, but then you go on the hypothetical argument of, well, her very creepy, weird dad just convinced her to stay and work with him instead of going off to college, like she was going to.
Yeah,
And it's
that's
like,
true.
did he actually, help her out in that, and save her from something?
Or is he being really creepy and has creepy intentions? You know,
Yeah.
hard to say. But no. So again, setting up some of her own stuff here, and her own ideas, and there's not as much in this episode with the theme of money necessarily. There's definitely plays for power, for sure, and
Definitely.
definitely how women are treated because of obviously all the talk about Janie and everything else. But um, anyway, so the final two scenes of the episode is that Martin and Vigo go to where Damien is, and he even says to Vigo, "Do you want to come in?" He's like, "Sure." I'm like,
Why not? I'm
"Yeah,
here.
oh yeah, we'll get Vigo with Damien. That'll be interesting." But we don't, because as soon as they open the door, there's a bloodbath. Everyone there's dead. So they pull out the guns and they go through very creepily, very slowly, very cautiously,
Methodically would be the word I'd use.
methodically. There you go. And eventually they get to a room where they both look at. We don't see what it is yet, but it's once they walk away, the camera goes down, and we see two hands, just sitting in a pool of blood.
Detached hand.
Detached hands, yes.
Yes.
Two
Well,
detached hands, yes.
I want to make it clear, you don't just see two hands in the edge of frame.
Oh,
It's
sure.
just two hands.
It's two, yes, amputated hands.
Yeah. I want to say I was shocked this wasn't the final scene.
You thought it was
That,
gonna
that, that shot where it kind of slowly come up into and it just showed you the hands and sat on them. I was convinced it was ending there, and then it carried on for like another 5 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, there's just one more scene, but obviously the scenes in this show tend to be quite long because they're all so slow paced and whatnot. So yeah, we get a scene where it's because this turned out to be Damien's hands. You know, the Mexicans have got Damien in a emptied out swimming pool with his hands cut off. He's obviously in great pain. He looks terrible. He's not just including his hands, but his face and like just he looks like he's been through hell. And not Alfonso. Jesus and Yaritza walk in, and Alfonso was William Dafoe, who is there as well. Actually, you don't get a good look at him, but he's the one who, when they came in, he's like, "See, yeah, we sorted it." He's all, I'm something of a scientist myself. He's been all William Dafoe. Anyway, so they come in and Jesus comes down the swimming pool and comes up to him and says, we're going to make an example out of you. Next, I'm going to cut your tongue. Then I'm going to cut out your eyes.
And like mail them to various people.
Yeah,
right?
Tongue's to his mom. The eyes are to someone else. Like it was.
I don't remember. It was in depth. It was a very intricate plan he had here.
Yes. It was really thought out. But not his ears, because he wants him to always hear the world that he's not getting to experience. He wants to at least hear things so that he knows what he's not seeing or feeling or tasting or whatever. So really dark. Really, really extreme example. And you're like, shit, man, Jesus is actually like
Terrifying.
he's kind of terrifying. And we get this game-changing little reveal, which is not super shocking, I don't think, but it's shocking for or not shocking. It's cataclysmic for the direction of the story and sending the two plots that we've been following, just barreling ahead, towards each other. It's like, so Damien's like, you killed the wrong cop. another cop. It was another cop who killed your mother, and I'll tell you everything I know if you give me a quick death, basically. And again, very long and drawn out.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I don't know whether or not to believe him.
That's a fair point. Yeah, like, is he just saying this because it gives him a quick death? So he's just going to say this to.
He'll say whatever he can just to get himself right. I'm dead.
Which stings because Martin did seem to actually care a little bit about him earlier on.
Right, but it would completely throw out how the start of the show. We were like, that felt like the first time man had killed someone. It felt like such a momentous moment. Like, okay, I'm finally working for you now. To recontextualize this as no, he did kill someone before this. Does change things, I think, and not necessarily for the better.
That's assuming that he's telling the truth, which,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I mean, that could very much be a path we go down. This idea that this one lie might completely devastate like every character on the show.
Because I think it's the only person he could blame that is believable. It's like, oh no, you killed the wrong partner, right? They were a team. You just
not only that, but Martin's been working for him since.
Yeah.
Because I will say this: if it's true, then it was still the partner who had the job, and Martin just went with him. Because that was the implication I always had: is that
sure.
Martin wasn't the one working for him; he just kind of went along with him when he had some jobs for Damien.
Yeah.
And he didn't really start working directly for Damien until the start of the show. We had that story back in the first episode or two.
Definitely.
So yeah, it could be a lie because it would get him out of this, and the idea of just like. It would make it more tragic that Jesus is going to come like guns blazing and like try and like
over kind of nothing.
Yeah, and like because I mean it doesn't surprise me that the potential that this entire show is going to be one big tragedy where just at the end everyone is just brutal. Like, because I think he's going to kill Janie and it's going to be brutal. I think no, it's a tragedy. I think that's been clear for a long time. Yeah, the only question is it a tragedy that Martin survives and gets to be the new Vigo going like at the end of the show? Does he survive so he can at least be the one positive outcome? Is that there's still a soldier for good at the end?
I don't actually know.
Yeah, I could see it going either way. I really could. I think Vigo's a goner, and because he's dying anyway.
He's dying anyway.
So it's like, go for it. I did love the shot though, because after he says it was Martin. There's a great shot of Yaritza walking down the side of the pool, just a tracking shot going from right to left. It just looked great.
Yeah, because there's a moment where is Jesus going to deliver? Right, okay, he's given him what he needs. Is he actually going to, keep his word? Because we've never really seen if Jesus does keep his word or not. I mean, it's never been tested.
Yeah. You always get, given how much he looks down on some of the other characters, you always get the impression he at least thinks of himself as a man of honor and integrity.
I assume so. Don't get me wrong. I am assuming so, but we've never found out for sure. Obviously, it's enough for Damien. It's like, oh no, your word is good enough. I think in that life, it's all you've got.
Yeah. So Yuisa comes down and she's the one that's the final shot's her pointing the gun.
Yeah.
And pulling the trigger. And again, in a very powerful shot, it's very low angle. I mean, sure, I think you can criticize it for being a little bit sexy because when she pulls her leg up to like get the gun, it's very much like here's some sexy leg. But the position is very low angle, and it gives her this very dominating kind of like, position of power in the shot. She looks very intimidating. And it very much kind of like, and Damien going down, who's been for a good time in the show, he was the most powerful character. We saw him as the big bad that was roping Martin into this world, and now he's made to look small because now he's been taken out by them.
Kind of looks like a bit of a chump here, doesn't he?
I mean, it's a bit harsh, but
I mean, the dude's got no hands. Looks like a chump.
That's how you define chump. I define chump as someone who has to wait in a queue because they're not important enough to skip. That's a chump, not someone who has their hands cut off.
In context, it's pretty chumpish.
Chump is not a serious enough word for the context of having one's hands cut off. I'm standing by this.
Carpenters will back me up.
Yeah,
it's a chump.
Sure. So anyway, we have 3 episodes left.
2.5.
Sure, because the last one's only like 30 minutes, which will feel like such a pleasant surprise when we get there. Because
that's the thing. By this show standards, that's not even half. That's a third of some of them.
Well, yeah, next episode 8 is the 90 minutes, give or take again. So
we're back to that, are we?
So yeah, that'll be next week's episode. But no, the episode was great. I as per usual with this show, there wasn't actually that many scenes. If anything, this might be one of the lowest scene counts of the show.
Yeah,
so
it
far.
was a slightly shorter episode, I think, than what I would assume is the average.
It was just over 70 minutes, so yeah, so it was a little bit shorter.
Long by most TV standards. But I mean, on this, I feel like it was slightly below average. Maybe I'm wrong,
but yeah. I'm doing my Baldwin impression.
Please never do that
again. But yeah, by all means, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to support us financially, you can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Go and have a look and see what's on offer. You get some stuff early, some bonuses for as little as $1 per month, and obviously you get some other stuff at the higher tiers. It helps keep the shows coming, ensures the content survives, and you get to feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. So go have a look, and also get us on Twitter at mail_fuzz for channel updates. You can also check out other content we've got. We're doing The Boys, also for Amazon Prime right now. We're about halfway through that, so check out reviews for that. Same audio feed for that as well. You can get everything we do on YouTube or MailFuzz TV, but you can also get the Netflix reviews audio feed for all the Netflix shows we do. And we have Mindhunter just about to start. We just started Dear White People season 3, and Glow season 3 is about to start. So a lot of stuff going on TV wise right now. So check it all out. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?